This video taken earlier this morning. It will not be the case in just 24 hours as Hurricane Florence draws closer to the Carolina coast. I'm John Bruce here in our Mount Pleasant studios. Let's bring in Chris Nessman. He's a meteorologist. He's got the latest update on Florence's track. Came out about 11. So, Chris, what did it have to say?
Well, unfortunately, it just added to that factor of uncertainty as far as we are seeing changes with the forecast. Well, we're not seeing changes for Florence, still 130 miles an hour. It's been a very consistent storm as a category 4 for the past couple of days. So a lot of energy associated with it. It is moving slowly quicker as far as its forward momentum. It's also shifting more to the northwest. Yesterday it was more of a west-northwest. The day before that was westerly. So we are seeing it start to curve up as it makes its way closer to Wilmington, North Carolina. You see right there 485 miles southeast of Wilmington right now. And that is still where the main impacts are expected to be felt from this storm. Because you look at our tropical tracker, again, this was updated today with the latest update. So it shows it moving close to Wilmington, and then that's where the unknown happens as it starts to potentially curve. But you see how it bulges out. That's that factor of uncertainty. So will it make landfall in Wilmington and then start to turn, or will it turn just before landfall? It's a bit of a wild card. Either way, that still means Wilmington's going to get the brunt of the storm surge because that'll be pushed in front of the storm. It has nowhere to go. It's just going to pound right there. So you got to hope for the best for those folks. But for us, that does mean potential for some of those tropical storm winds, potentially some heavy rain, and we'll talk about that all coming up. In the meantime, we are still under a hurricane watch. They haven't changed that. Like I said, we're waiting for it to update to a warning, whether that be tropical storm warning or hurricane warning. It's still, we're waiting for that. North, of course, there is that hurricane warning and, of course, a storm surge warning on top of that. For us, we just still have that storm surge watch. So we're going to show you the latest models. I'm going to show you 3 of them, as well as rain total forecast, etc. We're starting to get those latest updates to the Euro and the GFS. So we'll hopefully have that for you coming up in just a bit. John?
All right, Chris, thank you. We've been talking a lot about storm surge risk associated with Florence. That's the wall of water created by a storm like this. You can check out NOAA's interactive National Storm Surge Map. Storm Surge Watch stretches all the way from Edisto Island up to the Georgetown County line. And if you zoom further out, that turns into a storm surge warning. That's a more significant risk up and down the North Carolina and Virginia coastlines. A very, very big storm we're talking about here. The city of Charleston held a presser just 2 hours ago. Charleston Mayor John Tecklenburg, Mount Pleasant Mayor Will Haney spoke along with the police and fire chiefs of those communities. Their main message: get out while you can. City leaders also stressed citizens follow evacuation orders. In the path of Florence, they could still impact the Lowcountry. Mayor Will Haney reassured the amount of police presence for those people who have evacuated and are worried about their homes will be substantial.
And if you're worried about leaving your property behind, remember what our police chief said yesterday. If anyone wants to go through a neighborhood in Mount Pleasant looking for a house to rob, you will meet one of our police officers. We have more than doubled our patrols. Our police presence is very visible right now. So don't worry about your property.
Charleston County will be holding a press conference in just a couple of hours at 2 o'clock, where local mayors and city leaders will give another update for their plans on how to handle Florence. There are, of course, shelters open all over the Lowcountry for those who decide to stay. We heard Mayor Tecklenburg say as of last night there were only 200 people in those shelters. Still certainly a lot of room if you're planning to use one. They encourage everyone to bring their own supplies. The mayor saying, quote, "It will not be the Ritz-Carlton." Dorchester County has a shelter at DuBose Middle School. That's the only pet-friendly shelter in the county if you're bringing your pets along. Charleston International Airport still open at this hour, but leaders say that will change later today. Brody Hart was there this morning. He's got more on why time is running out for flyers to get wheels up.
Thought we were going out this morning on Southwest.
The best laid plans
We get here and find out that everything is canceled.
so easily get lost in the crowd.
Well, we were real surprised.
There was a lot of surprise at Charleston International Airport this morning when flyers showed up and saw plastic over the Southwest Airlines ticket counters, and then learned every Southwest flight was canceled.
Cut our vacation short and then have to spend a ton of money to try to get home, and not even have anybody here from Southwest and have any warning that we didn't have a flight this morning, you know, is frustrating.
They may have wanted to take care of their employees, but what about their customers? That's not the typical Southwest way. Just to leave us stranded here with no notice.
This morning, airport officials confirm more cancellations are coming because the runway at Charleston International will close at midnight tonight.
Safety is our #1 priority on anything that we do at the airport.
Paul Campbell is the CEO of the Charleston County Aviation Authority. He says the Air Force personnel are evacuating today, and that leaves the airport without a fire and rescue team, forcing them to close the runway.
And if we can't provide the fire and rescue services, we're not going to have aircraft coming in.
Campbell says the terminal will stay open during the closure, and the runway will reopen at 7 a.m. Saturday, but that doesn't help stranded Southwest flyers.
I'm really irritated. I don't typically write letters, but this will be one that I write a letter about.
Working for you, Brody Hart, ABC News 4.
10 of those Southwest Airlines flyers told us they did not receive any communication about their canceled flights. Southwest officials say they're looking into why those customers were never contacted. Airport officials, meanwhile, recommend checking with your airline before you head to the airport. U-Haul wants to keep people and help them out during the storm. They're offering free storage for 30 days, available at 94 locations in North and South Carolina, as well as Richmond, Virginia. Families who need more information can contact their nearest U-Haul location. Of course, CARTA has begun their emergency services. There are hourly services at 14 different stops. Those will stop at 6 o'clock tonight, and the buses will be out of service as of 9 p.m. Riders will be taken to the Charleston County Public Service Building. The county will then provide transportation to emergency shelters based on occupancy. CARTA encouraging everyone to call their information line to find the best routes for them.
I'm out here on Folly Beach, and as you can see, businesses are getting ready. They've got sandbags going into place. They've got boarded up windows. This town is getting ready, and that's because as of 8 a.m. this morning, this town went to OpCon 1. Now, what does that mean for residents and businesses here? That means at 8 p.m. tonight, you should be expecting that this town is going to be shut to traffic unless you have a certain pass. You are not getting back on this island. Now, we talked to the mayor. He is getting ready for this emergency here in town. He's at the Public Safety Department building. We'll be talking to him as well and letting you know what's going to be happening out here. But as of 8 p.m. tonight, no one else on the island unless you have a pass that's been issued to you. Reporting from Folly Beach, I'm Ann Emerson, ABC News 4.
Of course, many stores closed with some areas boarded up, soon to look like a ghost town. Our crews went out to see one store that's staying open and see what supplies are left.
We're at the Target in Mount Pleasant. You can see the metal shutters have already been pulled on the entrances, but people are still able to shop here. We'll head inside. Right now, this is one of the only places in town which is still open. So right now there's a little bit of a lull here of people checking out, but we've seen a steady stream of people checking out whatever things that they can find here at the store. Talking with one of the managers here, he says they're one of the only games in town who is still open. So they're seeing a lot of people coming in for some of those last minute supplies. At least for right now, the manager tells me their plan is to stay open until 10 o'clock tonight, but certainly that is subject to change as the weather is heading in here and this storm is getting even closer to this area. In Mount Pleasant, I'm Ben Garbrick, ABC News 4.
Ben, thank you. You know, for many, smartphones going to be a lifeline during Hurricane Florence. And here's a look at a couple of the free apps that you may want to have on your phone downloaded ahead of Florence. First, the South Carolina Emergency Management. That app is new. It's going to keep you on up-to-date information throughout the storm as well as after it. FEMA also has a smartphone app that includes a map that'll help you find open shelters for you and your family if you do end up needing one. And Zello Walkie Talkie. This is a pretty cool one. It's an app that people used in Texas after Hurricane Harvey hit there. That app turns your phone into a walkie-talkie. In case of no service, the app will allow you to communicate with friends and family members. And don't forget a list of latest school and business closings. You can visit our website anytime, abcnews4.com/weather closings. Another look at the forecast coming up next.
ABC News 4 First Warning Weather with meteorologist Chris Nestman.
I like the juxtaposition of music there. Went from intense to joyful, but hey, I guess that's what weather's all about, right? So, satellite radar showing Hurricane Florence still hanging out there, still a Category 4 storm, winds 130 miles an hour. It's about 480 miles away from North Carolina. As we watch this cone, we're going to show it once again. There you go. Gets close to the the shores of North Carolina, and then that's where the possibility of it making a turn start. Now, there's a huge variability in there. We're going to show that in just a second, how some of them still bring it down the coast. Not what we want, but a possibility. Some of it showing inland through South Carolina, and even still a couple take it more into North Carolina, and then Charlotte getting the brunt of it. Either way, there is still a lot of variability, but I will say the one factor, simply because it will get close enough to land, we are going to see it weaken some, even if it does come closer to Charleston, simply because as soon as it interacts with land, it loses some of that punch, and then eventually starts moving up towards the Appalachians and away from us. Latest spaghetti plots follow that fairly nicely. Comes close to North Carolina, slow down, but then notice how a good chunk of them sweep through the center of the state and then move up towards the mountains. So again, Charleston, while I do think we're going to see tropical storm force winds, I do think we're going to see a lot of rain, and then there's the potential for hurricane gusts. Steady hurricane winds, not looking too likely. I'm not going to say no, but we're leaning more towards, again, tropical storm force winds as the main factor or main thing we're going to see here. And of course, those rains. So here's one model. This is our internal one that we have here at home. Shows it making landfall near Wilmington with the brunt of that storm surge just to the north of the eye. So from Cape Hatteras to about Wilmington, that'll definitely get the brunt of those big waves. Then it moves on land, brings some pretty heavy rain to Myrtle Beach, slides through the Midlands, and Charleston does get rain, but not a ton relative to what these systems can do. I mean, we're still talking a couple inches here, but that actually wouldn't be too bad for us. GFS model, which this is one from a couple hours ago, the new 12Z one, they title them based off Greenwich Standard Time, is just starting to come. In fact, I was watching it hoping it would get a little more done. It's not going to finish. But this is what the most recent one shows that is complete. Coming in, stalling out, so bringing quite a bit of rain to North Carolina, and then slowly meandering north of Charleston, but closer than our in-house model, and then again sweeping away once it gets towards the Appalachians. That's the GFS. The Euro, this one, a little different than the others, barely makes landfall, because as soon as that eye makes contact with land, we call it landfall, even if it's just a skiff of it, comes back out to the ocean and then swings around, makes landfall a second time close to Savannah. In that case, while we would definitely see stronger winds and we'd see more rain, it still would interact with land enough that it would still weaken the storm. So we're not talking Category 4 strength here. That's for Wilmington. You got to pray for those folks, because I mean that's going to be brutal, but nonetheless, that's not quite what we're going to see. And with that European model, this is the rain totals. Again, we're talking isolated 15-20 inches. Charleston, by Monday lunchtime, we're looking at about 10 to 12 inches if you want to get very specific. So that's still a lot of rain, not as much as they're going to see in parts of North Carolina. GFS takes it more this way, up towards Charlotte. With Charleston, I think we'd still get more than what this is showing, even if it does take that track, significantly less. So you're seeing what we're looking at. That's the variability. That's why there are certain things, like the fact that I think we're going to see tropical storm force winds, that we're pretty comfortable with. I mean, you look at this probability. Here's Friday, Saturday. There's Saturday at lunchtime. We're in that 70, close to 80% category. We're going to see them again. So 39, 40-something miles per hour, definitely going to be fairly common. Gusts obviously are higher, and we'll start to see those late Thursday night into Friday, but even then it's going to take a bit before we see those. So here is the futurecast for those wind gusts. Here's Thursday evening. Georgetown obviously getting more than the rest of us, and like I said, these are gusts, not steady winds, but showing potentially that winds are really going to start to whip up there as we get into Friday and even inching into Saturday. So quick summary, what we're comfortable or confident in saying: high risk of rip currents, yes. Coastal flooding, most likely. Inland flooding, definitely going to be there. Closer to home, farther away, that's still up in the air, but inland flooding will be a thing. Wind gusts of hurricane force, it's still up in the air. Tropical storm, yes. Hurricane, a little bit tougher to call. Same thing with the storm surge, as that will really depend on the track. There's your extended forecast for you. Again, we could see those rain chances go up significantly Saturday, Sunday. You'll see those changes for sure by this afternoon.
All right, Chris, thank you. And just as a reminder, if you need to jump in your car and head somewhere, you can listen to us on WTMA, the Big Talker, 1250 a.m. We'll simulcast all of our storm coverage right there. Of course, Hurricane Florence has the Carolinas firmly in its bullseye. Officials warning the storm surge alone could pose a serious threat to life. ABC's Natalie Brunell is in Wrightsville, North Carolina, where many people have already evacuated ahead of the storm.
Bracing for impact. Homes boarded up, store shelves cleared, gas in short supply.
As soon as I pulled in the parking lot, somebody told me there was no gas, so you might as well not come here.
As the monstrous Category 4 Florence takes aim at the Carolina coast, major highways morphed into one-way escape routes.
We are currently on what is usually the right side of the road, but you can see the traffic coming up the other side too.
For some, it meant leaving behind their newly built dream home.
When I got the email that said there was a mandatory evacuation, it just, it hit me, and I shed a few tears.
The latest forecast shifting slightly south and now delaying the storm's landfall until early Saturday morning. But Florence still expected to pack a catastrophic punch in storm surge and up to 40 inches of rain. Some calling it the storm of a lifetime.
My message is clear. Disaster is at the doorstep and is coming in.
European astronaut Alexander Gerst tweeting chilling photos of the storm from space, saying, quote, "Get prepared on the East Coast. This is a no-kidding nightmare coming for you." FEMA sounding this alarm.
Today is your last day to get out of the areas that have been placed under evacuation orders.
The race against time to leave, stressful but necessary.
Important thing is your life, and
Right.
you can't get that back. The house can be rebuilt.
Tropical storm conditions are expected to start tomorrow, and when Hurricane Florence does make landfall, the area where I'm standing is expecting up to a 13-foot storm surge. Natalie Brunell, ABC News, Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina.
Let's head further north of our area now. Georgetown County, of course, expecting heavy rain and hurricane force gusts as well. They're boarding up, preparing for Florence. In fact, businesses along Front Street were busy with preparations on Tuesday. Store owners say that the area resembled a ghost town. The only shop open, Castaways Bar and Grill. Owners there said they want to make a little extra cash yesterday before they closed up to help them clean up after the storm. And of course, some parts of the Low Country may lose power later this week. SC&G wants customers to be proactive. About 2,800 employees will be working around the clock to restore power to affected areas. But getting the lights turned back on may take some time. Workers want homeowners to be patient and be prepared.
It's not just about us being prepared. We also want our customers to be prepared. And so that looks like a lot of different things, making sure that they have the supplies that they need for their families, whether it's water, canned goods, batteries, flashlights, weather radios, anything like that.
Also, best to register your number. You can sign up for text alerts there. Important updates will be sent to your phone within seconds. Then you can even text the word out if you experience a power outage. Over 100 utility workers from Arkansas will make their way to the Carolinas this week. They left on Tuesday morning, many of them assisting with storm cleanups. Their biggest focus, of course, will be those power outages. One worker says it's the Arkansas way of helping others in need.
We have people from all over the United States come and help us, so it's just this is how it works. It's a little bit payback.
Workers arrived in Atlanta last night. That's where they're going to stay until those assignments are given out. And several power crews and trucks from Alabama Power left late yesterday as well to make their way to the Carolinas. Those men and women will serve to help restore power, to reset poles and reconnect wires. More than 600 churches in Alabama are collecting items to have ready to send for the aftermath of Hurricane Florence. An Maryland task force is making its way to our area as well. The Montgomery County Fire Department has deployed 80 people to come in and help. That team will assist with swiftwater rescues. They're bringing 6 boats as well as 6 canine units. Now remember, you can download our ABC News 4 app. Do it right now to stay up to date with the weather 24/7. That's free in the App Store. You can use it to track Hurricane Florence, get the latest updates, and stay up to date with breaking news while we all get ready for the storm. Right now, a federal state of emergency has been issued for North and South Carolina as Florence churns its way towards the East Coast. We're going to return to Wrightsville Beach now for another look at how people are making the final preparations there before that expected landfall. Omar Jimenez filed this report.
Emergency management officials giving residents a deadline of tonight to have all of their preparations in order. Where I am standing right now in Wrightsville Beach, they are under a mandatory evacuation notice. The residents here joining the close to 1.5 million facing similar orders across the southeast as Hurricane Florence continues to approach the East Coast.
This is historic. This storm is big and it's vicious.
While those in Hurricane Florence's path are stocking up on necessities, companies around the country are gearing up to help in the storm's wake. Supply store giants Home Depot and Lowe's have both activated hurricane command centers to make sure area stores are well stocked before and after.
Almost every North Carolinian is going to be affected by this storm in one way or another. We know that there's probably going to be loss of power for a number of days.
Electric companies from all over, including this one in Arizona, are sending linemen and equipment to help restore power after the storm. Loss of power and no access to medical supplies can mean life or death for those who survived the storm, but are stuck in its aftermath.
So the concern is about people who are very young or very old, who don't have much money or access to transportation, who do not speak the predominant language and don't have access to information.
Direct Relief, an aid organization in California, is sending crates of medical supplies to help with that burden. But the most important thing, officials say, is that residents are heeding their warnings and leaving.
Get to safety before the trouble comes. People need to take advantage of the time now while it's still safe and put yourself in a position where you don't have to call 911.
And to give you an idea of some of the local preparations, in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, a town just south of here, local officials will be going door to door tonight, basically telling residents that choose to say point blank, you are putting your life at risk, and to give them their next of kin information. Reporting from Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, I'm Omar Jimenez.
All right, but what's happening here? Let's check back in with meteorologist Chris Nessman for one last check on Hurricane Florence.
Again, no changes just yet. We do expect updates, so especially with this 5 o'clock update this afternoon. That'll have new models from some of the major ones like the GFS and the Euro. Still 130 miles an hour, moving northwest at 15 miles an hour. About 480 or so miles southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina. And I mean, it's a good sized storm. But one thing, if it makes you feel a little better, just know that the entire storm does not have 130 mile an hour winds. That is just around the eye. A lot of this has tropical storm force, but you can handle that a lot more than you can handle 130 miles an hour. So we are still under a hurricane watch. Just north of us from the Santee River and county line on up is under a hurricane warning. Storm surge watch also in effect for Charleston County, and then storm surge warning further up with the brunt of it from about Wilmington up towards Cape Hatteras. So that's what we're looking at. And again, the impacts, the ones in dark red are the ones we're very confident on. High risk of rip currents, we're already seeing that. That's just going to pick up. Coastal flooding concerns, and then with the rain and how the storm, well, it's not going to completely stop, it is going to slow down. Inland flooding will be concerned. Things to look for: wind gusts of hurricane strength, possible, or a little out of the bag. That really depends on the path of the storm. Tropical storm force, though, yeah, it's looking like we're going to see that. Storm surge, 2 to 4 feet, again, possible, but that really depends on the track. So we'll let you know as we get closer when we're going to switch those over to that red color. John?
All right, Chris, thank you. And remember, we are going to come back on the air at 2 o'clock this afternoon for a press conference with the city of Charleston, where local leaders will give us yet another update on their plan as Hurricane Florence gets closer to the coast. We're going to bring that for you on ABC News 4, on our Facebook page, and on our website as well. Of course, our regular newscasts at 5 and 6 and 7 tonight. And for anytime updates, you can download that app or just log on to our Facebook page. I'm John Bruce in our Mount Pleasant studios. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there.